beautiful. So glad spring is here. Dead ahead, if you pause and zoom, you'll be able to see the Longstreet Tower is way off in the distance there. There's some birds, I assume red-winged blackbirds taking off. I just love, so many places in Gettysburg, there are so many birds. It's a birder's paradise. I'm not sure about the number of varieties, but beautiful songbirds in every part of the park. Especially, of course, down between the slaughter pen and Devil's Den, down by the bog. If I can maybe shield some glare here, and it's way too small, but straight ahead is the Virginia Monument, i.e. the statue of Robert E. Lee and Co., the great General Robert E. Lee. And yes, I said the great general. Don't have to like him or be on the Confederate side to appreciate what a man that guy was, what a general he was. He was not perfect. He had some great moments, like the 7 Days battles, and he had some blunders. Kind of like Gettysburg. So if I can find my way back, oh, there's a path. I'm following the last little part of the trail of Pickett's charge before I get back to crossing the highway and back to Cemetery Ridge. Just thought I'd take you on one more walk. Last walk of the day. It's been a shorter visit. As some of you may have seen my video up to the northwest of town by the statue of John Buford and John Reynolds, where the first battle was. It's been a very cold and windy day, at least for late March. Probably only topped out at about 46 degrees with a lot of wind earlier. It's still kind of coming and going. So visually speaking, this isn't a lot to look at, but it is a very important part of the battlefield. This was Custer's last stand. Just kidding. This was Robert E. Lee's last stand here at Gettysburg. A great effort as far as scale, but a futile effort nonetheless, as I think we all know. Funny, I'm kind of I did the beginning of the battle today, and I'm finishing at the end and skipped over a lot of the middle, but we've covered a lot of the middle. And again, my point in my romps here at Gettysburg is not to show you every part of the battlefield or go over every specific battle within the larger battle. I'm not a battlefield guide. That's not why I'm here. I'm just showing you guys some select parts, some of my favorite parts, and just sharing my passion. I'm I'm pretty knowledgeable when it comes to history, social history, the 20th century. I don't know if I've ever told you this, because I really don't talk about this stuff. If I'm an expert on anything, I'm an expert on intelligence agencies and their affairs, especially in the last 4 decades, going back to Bill Casey. But that's something I choose not to really talk about on this channel, so nah, sorry. I'm sticking with the safe stuff. Those are stories, not really for another time. I did share a couple good books with you, though, if any of you caught my XXX book review that I posted a couple weeks ago. That can get you started. That book by Steve Cole, Ghost Wars, is a good book. A very good book. But anyways, I digress. It turned out that it has ended up a beautiful day, as you can see, and the wind has died down a bit. You hear those birds? Sorry if there's a bit of wind. Music to my ears. And I am, again, happier than a pig in mud. This spring is, well, you know, spring often starts with the case of the jitters. But spring is here / on its way. Birds chirping, sun going down, a Cessna overhead or some kind of small plane. Sounds like a single prop. And you could barely make it out here, I hope. Yeah. An early moon overhead. Just beautiful, and the golden hour on the fence posts. Not too bad to finish up. Not the way it started. God, it was nasty. I had to keep sticking my hands in my pockets. Anyways, again, this was a really futile effort, and I dare say I'm pretty sure all the commanders knew it. I'm not sure about the lower ranks. They probably knew it too. They probably had a sense in their gut that this was a last-ditch effort that ultimately would fail. By the way, walking back to walk back up this way, I finally remembered. So it's the Pickett, Pettigrew, Trimble charge. I'm such a horrible guide. Like I've said, I'm not the battlefield guide. I'm not trying to pretend like I am a battlefield guide. I try to mention that in my comments or in the tapes, almost every video that I make here. But I do love the topic. You know, to be quite honest, I've only really started digging into Civil War guys pretty recently. A lot more recently than you might think. But Trimble is a weird freaking last name, okay? Give me credit, all right? You know, they were, of course, the three major generals. There were many other generals and divisions under them. But this is often called Pickett's charge, but there were actually three major generals leading it together. And as I think I mentioned in another video or two before, the one impressive thing about it was the I don't think you can call it a fusillade, because I think that usually refers to small arms, but the insane bombardment that they began within their with their artillery, the Confederates. It was to date the most explosive and most voluminous pounding of artillery I believe the world had probably ever seen at that point, not just in our nation's history, including the Revolution in 1812, but perhaps in the world's history. It went on, I think, for at least, I'm gonna get this wrong, but maybe an hour and a half or so before there was finally a lull, and then before they finally sent the foot soldiers out. But however, most of the rounds went overhead the Union positions. Most of them, not all, but the vast majority of their rounds were overshot. So they started off there, and things only, of course, got worse from that point on. Lee should have listened to Longstreet. What can I tell you? Lee should have listened to Longstreet a couple times. Longstreet, of course, had deep reservations about this particular charge, or you know, finale, last-ditch effort. And he was, you know, of course, high up enough and favored by Lee enough. You know, he had enough of Lee's confidence where he could speak his mind. Other generals weren't in the same position, but Longstreet certainly had the esteem of Robert E. Lee. And you know what? I'm pretty sure, in fact, I'm 99% sure that Longstreet really was not in favor of having the battle here at Gettysburg at all. I think he wanted to sidestep Gettysburg, and I forget exactly where he, what other town he may have favored, but he did not favor Gettysburg as a location to do a large-scale battle with George Meade and the Union Army. Like I said, Lee should have listened. Longstreet was a smart guy. He was a great, another great commander. I mean, you know, again, Lee in his own right was pretty good. You know what? My going back to my original statement about Lee, part of my admiration or my respect, I don't want to say admiration, but part of my respect for Lee, my healthy and deep respect for Lee, comes from the fact that he had a insanely healthy and deep respect and admiration from all his ranks throughout the whole war, or at least throughout the time when he became the Supreme Commander for the Confederate forces, which, by the way, didn't happen until Johnston fell out. Oh dear. At the Battle of Seven Pines. I'm getting better at this. It wasn't until the Battle of Seven Pines, when Johnston fell out, he was shot first of all, and then he took some artillery fragments, and that's when Robert E. Lee, already being an advisor to Davis, became the top commander for the Confederate Army. So he did not start the Civil War at the top, but he attained that position not too long thereafter, after the Battle of Seven Pines.